I'm Nick Main. I'm Global Managing Partner of Climate Change and Sustainability Services for Deloitte. What will the world look like in 2020? Well, 2020 will be some way through a journey. And we have to be some way through a journey, otherwise we're going to be in serious trouble. But let's assume that we have. Let's assume that we've now, by 2020, carbon emissions have been capped. We've had the maximum carbon emissions that the world will ever see, and we're on a path to 2030 when we have some pretty aggressive targets to make. So we're partway through that transition. So what does it look and feel like? Well, naturally, one of the things that we've done, we put a price on carbon and the cost of energy is high. But that doesn't mean we live any less well. We've been quite careful about insulating houses and thinking quite differently about how we expend our energy. Most dramatically, that's in how we get around. We've thought harder about how we get around and what transport means. And while there are still some old petrol-powered motor vehicles around, the infrastructure for them is dropping away quite rapidly as we move to more acceptable ways to transport electric power fleet, having solved the battery problem. So the way we use energy is quite substantially different, but it's more pervasive than that. We think quite differently about our lives. Technology is used in a very effective way now to help us use energy efficiently. We communicate all the time, and we communicate globally. And some of that global communication means we need to travel far less and far less frequently. But we still feel connected, and we feel very connected locally too. There's much greater feeling of local connection, and we no longer feel that we have to do the travel to maintain our international contacts. So we've made significant change in the way that we operate, in the way that it affects Deloitte. In some ways, it's built into business as usual. We do quite a lot of assurance work now. We do more assurance work around carbon. You wouldn't contemplate doing a financial audit these days without assuring the carbon footprint, and you wouldn't contemplate producing a set of financial statements without significant exposure about carbon risk that the organisation faces. Our consulting practice looks at the carbon supply chain, but again, that's just how business operates now. But we have a major practice in innovation, assisting companies do innovation around new products that respond to the changed environment. Perhaps most pleasing is one of the things that we've been involved with is the development of international carbon markets, particularly around sustainability of forests. These have been really useful in affecting finance transfer, transfers of wealth and transfers of knowledge to developing and underdeveloped nations so that they can equally participate in its new economy, and also so that we can save the rainforests, which is really important. So it's a much more engaged community, a much more thoughtful community, still a very exciting community, but one which understands that energy has a really high cost and therefore uses it very effectively. I'm quite positive. I think by that time we have to be on top of the problem. Our carbon emissions have to be tracking down, and I'm sure we can do that.